Like you're experiencing a completely different city. You've never been here before. You don't know how to survive here. Don't compare yourself with people who have lived in this country throughout their entire lives and they're just settling down at the point where you're at right now. It makes no sense. And honestly, you're frankly just being really, really mean to yourself. So when I was 19, I moved to a new country and it was my very first time leaving the country. As a matter of fact, it was the first time I left Ibadan. So up until the point where I left the country, I had never left my city. And if this is you, or you've actually traveled out a lot, you're just really nervous about what your experience will be as, encountering loneliness in a new country, and you're moving to a new country where you don't have any family members, you don't have your parents there, you don't have your siblings there, and your social life, you're going to have to rebuild that from scratch, and you're just a bit worried about it. I'm going to share some useful tips in today's video to help you with loneliness in moving abroad. The first thing I want to say is it's important for you to be kind to yourself. You're experiencing a completely different journey. Like you're experiencing a completely different city. You've never been here before. You don't know how to survive here. Don't compare yourself with people who have lived in this country throughout their entire lives and they're just settling down at the point where you're at right now. It makes no sense. And honestly, you're frankly just being really, really mean to yourself. So please give yourself grace. Immigration is really, really difficult, especially if you have family back home and you've not moved with the rest of your family in your 20s. You're just starting to figure your life out, and all of a sudden you have to uproot yourself and move to a new country. It is difficult, it is draining, but it's going to build you and you're going to learn so many lessons. And in a lot of cases, it's really, really worth it. So what you just need to focus on is learning how to go through the entire journey without doubting yourself and how to make the most out of your experience. So my very first tip with regards to loneliness when it comes to moving abroad is that you need to make friends. You've left your social circle back in your country. In my case, I left my social circle back in Nigeria, and I was going to school, so it was really easy. For some people, especially if you're not going to school where you have a structured environment where you can meet people like you need to put in the effort to make friends. I'm going to drop more tips on how to make friends towards the end of the video, so please continue to watch this video up until the very end. But making friends is so important because your circle actually naturally builds how you survive in a country, and human beings are made to be social. Like we're social beings. So if you don't have friends and you end up locking yourself in a room or you end up doing just work and life, it becomes really overwhelming and really, really lonely after a while. And this is some of the reasons why you have these feelings of, is it worth it? Should I have left my country and stuff like that? So making friends is perhaps one of the biggest experiences I've made. My friends personally have saved me from so many difficult situations. There were times when I was completely broke and I had absolutely no money at all, and my friends were the ones who pulled me out of that. There were times when I needed a new option of a new country I needed to move. I've moved about 4 times in the last 5 years, and my friends have been instrumental at every point in time. Now, I don't have a large circle, and you don't need a large group of friends. I think another misconception so many people have is that all your friends have to be in one place. No, they don't. So you could have a friend, from school. You could have a friend from another friend from church. You could have another friend who you met on social media. You could have somebody else who you met, just randomly on the road, in the bar. Make friends everywhere you go. It doesn't have to be like all in one place. Like you don't need to have all your friends to be from school or all your friends to be from church. And one tip I have when it comes to friendships, and again I'll drop more tips towards the end of the video, is number one, everywhere you go, try to make an effort. So if I find myself in a new environment, for example at work, and I've never been there before, and I'm just experiencing people for the first time, I try to look for the friendliest face. Now, the friendliest face does not always mean the warmest heart. Some people have a friendly face, and some people are, they seem warm, but deep inside of them, they don't really like you. So I think it's important to not jump into the friendship, but be quick to embrace people. And once you notice that someone doesn't really like you or doesn't really understand your vibe, or you're not really feeling the vibe of the friendship, don't be shy and don't feel awkward about letting go of a friendship. In fact, the earlier, the better. Now, you can let go of a friendship and still remain as acquaintances. So there's a way you can befriend someone, and you guys have regular chats, but it's nothing too serious. You don't tell them too many personal details about your life. You don't tell them, you do let them know they can support you when you're vulnerable, and you can also act as a support for them. But then they're not so tied to you where they know every single thing there is to know about you. And it's still a form of friendship, and it's still a very valid form of friendships. Now, it's important to compartmentalize every single friend that you have. Now, your friends are going to be they're going to make up your new family, and this is your chosen family. These are people you've chosen to be a part of your life. It's important to compartmentalize. Now, some friends might not understand you culturally. Like, I'm Nigerian, and not all the friends I have understand what it means to be Nigerian. Not all of them understand the experience of immigration, but it doesn't mean that they're not good friends to me in some other ways. We share common interests, maybe like reading books. We share common interests, maybe like going to maybe, do sports together or going to the gym. These are still valid forms of friendship, and they're just little pockets of fun and happiness that I get to experience when I'm with them, without necessarily putting the burden on them to understand everything there is to know about me. Because again, as a person, I'm very complex, and I give my friends grace for that. So again, understand what type of friend they are, compartmentalize at every point in time to where you're going to keep that friendship, and just embrace and enjoy the friendship wherever it leads. My second tip is that loneliness cannot be avoided. Now, you could be surrounded with friends from all over the world. You could have, the tightest social circle. You could have 5, 10 people who you're talking to, who you're close to, who you're close with. And at the end of the day, when you go home, you still feel that resounding silence. I just want to encourage you and say the first year of immigration is actually the hardest. It's genuinely the hardest. After the first year, you already understand the common places. You start to know your own self. You've done a bit of self-reflection, which is why, again, the first year, although it's the hardest, it's still the most crucial part. And it actually determines what your experience will look like for the rest of the years. In the first year, you're very likely to not have that much money if you've come from, a bit of a not well-to-do background. You're not likely to have all the most money in the world because you're still figuring out how to get a job, how to get used to things. So it's very, very normal to have that experience and to not be where you expect to be in the very first year of immigration, which is why it's so important for you to give yourself grace. It's so important for you to be kind to yourself. But again, you need to get comfortable with yourself. Be comfortable with your own faults. Be comfortable with the things you don't like about yourself. It's a good time to embrace yourself, to look at yourself in the mirror, think about the things you want to change. It's a time for self-reflection. When I personally moved abroad for the first time, I used to be called a different name in Nigeria. And when I moved abroad for the first time, I realized I didn't like that name. It was a chance for me to change my name. So every time I was introducing myself to people, to my new friends, I gave them a new name that I liked. And it made me feel more comfortable. I entered into that persona. When I was back in Nigeria, my parents didn't like allowing me to wear makeup. When I moved abroad, it was my opportunity to explore how to do my makeup. And so I did makeup. I enjoyed myself. It's a chance for you to become a different person if you want to be. It's a chance for you to explore different aspects of yourself that you might not have had the opportunity to explore back in your home country. And that first year, when you're experiencing that loneliness, I think is the most important time for you to actually do stuff like that, because it's a time for you to learn to love yourself. It's a time for you to learn to change the things that you don't really like about yourself. Everybody has insecurities and things you love to change and things you don't really, love too much about yourself. And in the very first year of immigration, the first year of moving, it's a chance for you to explore those things. You get the silence to yourself. You can journal, you can write, you can manage your time however you want. You can do early mornings and late nights, and you can decide to cook, you can decide not to cook. There's so many things that you can enjoy about living abroad. And I think it's really helpful to have a journal where you write down all the things you love to explore when you move eventually, but also mentally prepare that it's not going to be the rosiest time, and that's perfectly fine. You could also explore other hobbies. So you could explore new hobbies like knitting. You could explore hobbies like, playing a game, going to the gym. I encourage you to actually take the opportunity and try to do more physical activity. So you go to the gym, play sports, play a game, pick up a new game, pick up a new book, pick up something that you really enjoy and allow that to be your anchor. And it could also be a nice connection point for meeting friends. So if you go to the gym often and you end up liking the gym, you could meet someone in the gym, say hello to them, and you end up becoming gym buddies, and that becomes a friend that you get to experience that activity with. If you love reading books, you could go online, search for book clubs, or go to the library, look at someone who looks kind and is reading a book you might enjoy, and walk up to them, approach them, and try to have a conversation with them. It's a very nice way for you to learn, not only enjoy an activity, but also to enjoy it with someone else as well. Try not to turn yourself into furniture. Now, for most people, you don't have money, especially in the first year of moving abroad. If you're African, if you're immigrant, and you don't have all the most amount of money in the world, maybe you've not gotten a job yet, you've not gotten that thing that you desire yet. It could be a chance for you to upskill and a new skill. But I also think it's a chance for you to explore the environment. Now, moving abroad has a way of making you to, especially if you move to somewhere that you've always wanted to live, there's a way that you tend to start living there, and you end up leaving all the tourist activity to the tourists, because it actually adds up pretty quickly. But I encourage you to take advantage of the free things. So go to art galleries, go to parks behind, around where you live, explore your local environment, try to know the streets, take the bus, move around very often and quickly, try to do low things that don't cost you too much money, but at the end of the day, it allows you to explore your local environment. You could get to know your neighbors, you could speak to them. What I found particularly really helpful when I moved to Manchester was going to my local library and looking at the leaflets. All the leaflets had different things that were going on in my community that were really free or didn't actually cost a lot of money around the time when I moved. And that was really helpful for me to learn the history and also understand the environments that I was living in. So this is really helpful for anyone who is moving to a new environment and you're trying to just get used to that change of the environment without necessarily losing yourself. It's so important for you to go outside, even if you don't have friends. You could also use apps to make friends. I know that so many people don't recognize that this is a really good thing, but one of my closest friends at the moment is someone I met on TikTok. And how did I meet her on TikTok? So she commented on one of my videos and said, "Oh my God, you're so pretty." And I said, "You know what? I think you're pretty as well." Now, I'm not saying everybody that is pretty is exactly who you should be friends with, but you could see someone's post on TikTok. If you're someone who uses TikTok as well, you could see someone's post on there and, they're posting something that's really nice or they sound really cool. And you could reach out to them, send them a message in the DM, say, "Hi, my name is this. Would you like to be friends? I see you live in Manchester as well." And you end up reaching out to each other. You can go on a coffee date. That's what I did with my friend. We went on a coffee date on our very first time. We met at the mall. I went with a little gift for her because my love language is gift giving. I'm not saying you should do this for everybody that you meet, but we ended up going to the mall together and we had a nice conversation. We had a nice chit chat. We spoke about where we're from in Nigeria. We spoke about our environment, what we've done in the last few years. I opened up to her about who I am, what I do, my dreams, my goals. And just sharing this conversation brought us together so quickly that it's been about a year since we met and it feels like I've known her for much longer. And this has become one of my closest friends so far. And I think this is a really important way because I was really, at the time I was complaining about not having friends in Manchester and how difficult it is to make friends. Now she's a Nigerian, but I also made other friends of other nationalities. Maybe I would go to a local bar around my area and I'll meet a girl who I felt like was really cool or really kind, or, someone offered me a drink and I have a chat with them. And I always try to establish a common point or a shared interest before I try to move to befriend someone. But otherwise, I think it's okay to just exchange Instagram if you feel like you're not too sure if you want to be friends with that person. Exchange Instagram, see what they post, see what they like. Look at their TikTok, look at the things that they're interested in, and see if that's someone who matches your vibe before you go further and give them more information about yourself. And the thing with friendship is that it not only unlocks opportunities to have a shared activity and shared experience with someone, but it could also be a nice way to network. So if you've been looking for, say you're looking for a job at a particular place or a particular area, making friends with people who already work in that area or in that environment can be really helpful. Sometimes last year I was looking to move from a different team to another within the job I worked, the company I worked for, and I was really concerned because I wasn't really sure how to go about the move. It turned out that one of the friends I'd already made internally, she was just someone who I used to see on the floor, and I would say, "Hi, you look so pretty today," or "Hi, I love your shoes." Giving compliments to her, eventually asked for her name, eventually asked for what team she works for, eventually asked, "Can I message you on Teams?" We didn't take it too far at first, but just texting on Teams, "Hi, how are you? Are you doing okay? How's your team going?" Eventually, when I was looking to move teams, I explained to her, "Look, I'm having some issues on my current team. I'm thinking of changing things. Do you have any opportunities in your team?" And she said no. And I said, "Okay, great. If you find any opportunities, please feel free to send them my way." She already knew me. So she was someone who said, "Oh yeah, I know that girl." I automatically became someone she could reference if I needed a job. And so the next time the opportunity came out for there to be a job for her to recommend me for, she didn't hesitate to do that because I'd already tried to become her acquaintance. This is not only networking, but I genuinely wanted to be her friend. We spoke about several things. We went on a date, prior to this happening. But I'm just saying, making friends could be a great way to network and get you involved in the system much faster, especially the locals. So making friends with the locals can save you from, it could save you money when it comes to moving around, getting into the system, learning new things. Moving with locals could also give you new experiences. There's so many hidden spots that you don't know. It's so important to not only try to make friends, but also be on the lookout for yourself. So please be careful, even though while you're making new friends and you're learning these new experiences, please be careful the people you move around with, because they do determine, the future of whatever is going to happen for the next couple of years. And if you again start to feel like the friendship is feeling a bit sour, please step back very quickly. The sooner, the better when it comes to friendships. Lastly, I just want to say that moving to a new country is probably the hardest thing you would ever do. And I know this because I've done it myself. I moved to a new family, there were no friends, and you're starting again in a new country, but you're already doing it. Like you're already there. You're dealing with the unfamiliarity, the new environments, the changes, the weather, everything. And again, I encourage you to please give yourself grace. I am already so proud of you for watching this video up until this point. I know that it's really difficult, and sometimes even when you have so many people around you, it's so easy to feel lonely. So please reach out to me if there's any need box. I'll have my email address in the description box. Please reach out to me. I hope to hear from you. If you've watched this video to the end, thank you so much for watching. Please drop a comment, like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've got more videos on my channel, so please feel free to check them out. I'll have another one up here in the description. Thank you. Goodbye.